Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the But First She Failed podcast. Have you ever wanted to work on a project? You had a dream or a vision for something, but you just kept thinking about it and you never got around to it? Or maybe you had this idea for a product and you avoided it. You wanted to put out you had this beautiful vision for the end product, but you never even got around to putting out the first version of it. Or maybe you reread emails 40 times before you actually hit send. Well, you might be dealing with perfectionism, actually. So perfectionism is actually something that I deal with. So this is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I actually, with all transparency, it's something that I'm dealing with in this season. And I realized it a week ago that some of the things that have been holding me back or have been stumbling blocks for me, it's actually perfectionism and it's showing up kind of in an ugly way. And so I thought it would be really fitting to do an episode around this topic and kind of show you guys what I'm going through as well as the things that I'm doing to overcome it. And so, perfectionism to me in the past used to actually sound like something that was not that bad, right? Some perfectionism can be something where to me it actually used to sound like, oh my gosh, the person just wants to be excellent. What's wrong with perfectionism? There's nothing wrong with it, right? That's what I used to think. What can be so bad about it? But the truth is that perfectionism is actually a form of self-sabotage. I know, I never thought of that either. I never knew that either, right? So perfectionism is actually something that can hold you back in your life in so many ways. If you are a perfectionist, it can hold you back in your career, it can hold you back in your personal relationships, in your business, in pretty much all areas of life. And the worst part about it is perfectionism can definitely hold you back from living your dream life or even going after your dream life or starting to go towards it, right? So in this episode, I want to go over what perfectionism is, how to know if you have it, what are the common ways that it shows up, as well as what to do about it and what to do about hopefully keeping perfectionism at bay so that you can move on and do the great things that you got to do in your life. Now, let's get into today's episode. I thought a good place to start would be the definition of perfectionism, right? So, perfectionism is actually a personality trait characterized by setting extremely high, often unrealistic standards and placing excessive demands on oneself or others. And, it usually causes anxiety, stress, and dissatisfaction. And just hearing that definition rings true for me in there's so many times that's like, oh my gosh, that's how I am, right? That I get like, have perfectionist tendencies with when it comes to parties, when it comes to a lot of my projects, a lot of things that I work on. And that's why I am saying that I'm a recovering perfectionist because I feel like I've kind of gotten over it, but then I fell back into it. And I think it's a journey. And so I think that's why I really wanted to do this episode. In other words, what is perfectionism? Perfectionism is basically you are so obsessed with things being so perfect and going the way you imagine that when things fall out of line, which they always will, there's never going to be an event that's perfect. There's never going to be a person that's perfect. There's never going to be a project that's perfect. You're never going to have a perfect performance in anything. That's just, it's life, right? And so if you fall out when things are not perfect and it turns into a lot of stress, then you are probably dealing with it, right? If it causes a lot of anxiety, dissatisfaction, and what's the other one? And stress, right? So how does this show up in our everyday life? Like if maybe you heard the definition and you still are, you're still thinking, I'm not sure that that's me. How does it show up in your everyday life? Perfectionism has so many ways of showing up in our life, in our everyday life. And how do you know if you struggle with it? Well, the first trait or the first characteristic of perfectionism and way that it shows up in our everyday life is procrastination. Yes, this actually sounds kind of crazy and kind of counterintuitive because I would always think someone that's a perfectionist is probably someone that's amazing with their time management. They are probably like killing it with all things because they're striving to be perfect and they are not someone that's procrastinating, right? It seems like counterintuitive, but the truth is people that are truly dealing with perfectionism, a lot of times are dealing with procrastination. Why is it? That's because the person may become so fixated on the results and the end product and what they're going for instead of the process. So, what does that look like? They're so focused on the future and the result that it can lead to so much anxiety because you're thinking about like, how is this going to turn out? How is it going to be? How is the part, whatever the thing you're planning is, how is it going to actually be? That you end up getting so anxious and it becomes overwhelming that you basically end up avoiding the tasks at hand. So like sending out the invitation or doing whatever thing you need to do in order to get there, right? So I actually read a few articles. I'm actually reading a book about this topic and I'll recommend it to you guys in a minute, but another blog post that I read about this, I thought was really interesting. It was actually from the Cleveland Clinic, and it was Dr. Abers that said this. And she said, with extreme levels of perfectionism, the task can feel really daunting and create a lot of anxiety or stress, which leads to a domino effect of avoidance because there's a fear of getting started. And then it feels insurmountable to complete this task. 100% I can relate to this where I want the end product, I want the day, I want the event, I want the product, the project, the thing that I'm working on to be so perfect that I get overwhelmed with the first step of getting there, right? And so it becomes insurmountable to complete the task. And you might be dealing with this as well. If you have any goals that maybe you keep setting them year after year after year and you keep procrastinating on it, that could be a sign that you are a perfectionist, that maybe you want the thing so much when you want something so much, but you don't do the things that you need to do in order to get there because it becomes overwhelming. So then you end up procrastinating and not doing the things that move the needle forward on your business, on your career, whatever that looks like, right? That is one way that it shows up. Another more, I guess it's correlated with that last point, but it's a little bit more extreme, is avoidance, right? If you find yourself holding back, if it feels like the idea needs to be perfectly polished before you can share it with anyone, and you never end up actually sharing the project or the product with the world, then you are probably dealing with perfectionism, right? This is like procrastination, but to the extreme where you never actually do the thing, right? You end up thinking about it, dreaming about it, doing all the things, and then the days go by, as the months go by, the years go by, like I said, and you don't go for that goal, you don't do the thing, and you're avoiding it, right? It could be that you are dealing with, you are a perfectionist and you want the thing to be so perfect that you are not giving yourself room to actually do the thing, right? Because it's so overwhelming to you that you're completely avoiding it. You're not even procrastinating, now you're avoiding the thing, right? So maybe start thinking like, is there anything in your life where you really want to get it done, but you just feel like you have these feelings where it's like you want to do it, but then you don't do the thing and you know you love this. There's a difference between having a passion for something and really wanting to do it and not doing it, which could be perfectionism. And there's a difference between feeling like something is expected of you or you're supposed to be doing something in your career, maybe to move forward, and not doing it, where it could just be that maybe you don't love that thing. So we really do some searching on that to kind of get some clues as to if you are a perfectionist or not. Another way that it shows up in our everyday life is excessive criticism and excessive ruminating on self-criticism. So for me, I'm being honest with you, this is something that I even struggled with. I actually recorded this yesterday and I was really struggling with that yesterday, to be 100% real with you. I was very frustrated. I was just feeling very, I think, discouraged with a few things that have come up, and the discouragement got so much. And I think it had to do with like coupling with excessive criticism. Like I was critiquing, past episodes or critiquing different things. And I think it just got to a point where it's like, I didn't even realize, but I kind of slipped back into it. I think I've progressed in a lot of ways with being very positive with my self-talk. But I think I fell back into that, right? I think I started criticizing myself a little bit too much, right? And just feeling like I'm not, maybe the videos aren't doing as well as I wanted them to be, or the episodes or the last couple ones, whatever. But it's like being excessively like, there's one thing that is to obviously critique something that you're doing. You always want to be getting better. So you always want to be looking at something and saying like, how can I make this better? What did work and what did not work? Right. And being healthy with your approach. That's more like constructive criticism. That's in that realm. And there's a whole other part of ugly side of it. That's not the same thing. Right. That is more like excessive criticism of oneself, right? Or excessive criticism of one's products or one's projects or one's performance and those things. And that is where it gets like slippery and it's not good. And it's maybe because you're being a perfectionist and you want things to be so perfect. So excessive criticism. Another way that this shows up is always being overly prepared. This is also with the excessive criticism. You can strive to always be overly prepared or having a plan, needing exact rules, expectations, and instructions. I know this because sometimes when I'm on different teams, I've struggled with this where I need to know like exactly like the detail of the detail of the detail, because I start thinking, well, what if this question comes up? What if someone has this question? What if someone has this need? Or what if this situation comes up? How do we resolve it? And the truth is the situation may not come up. The need, the issue, the obstacle, the challenge that you're thinking about in your head might not come up. And you're spending so much time trying to go over the little details that you maybe didn't start the product or the event or whatever thing you're working on because you're thinking about all the challenges that are coming up and being very excessive with needing to know all the little details because you're a perfectionist, rather than actually just doing the thing, taking step 1, step 2, step 3. And then if you get to a roadblock at step 4, getting over working on that specific roadblock instead of thinking of the possible roadblock with number 1, the possible roadblock you could have come across in step number 2, the possible thing you could have come across in step, that's a tongue twister, in step number 3, but you are just so obsessed with all the details and you need to know everything before you go for it. That is another form of perfectionism, right? So another thing, another way that it comes up is dissatisfaction or disappointment, right? This is the constant pursuit of unattainable perfection can lead to persistent feelings of dissatisfaction and disappointment, even when they achieve significant accomplishments. Maybe if you are a high achiever, you have always, gone for really, really high things, really, really high goals. But the difference between a high achiever and someone that is a perfectionist is maybe you get to that high goal, but you're still critiquing yourself. You're still thinking of more. You're still like, why didn't I do this? Or why didn't, if I had an event and I wanted 100 people here, why did only 80 people show up? That could be like, that is great. You had 80 people show up to your event. You didn't have 100, but you had your goal of 100, but you still had 80, right? Same thing goes for almost any product, any part of your life, even with your children. Maybe, some people are, very excessive with like bedtimes. Maybe you didn't hit the mark with your bedtime, and you're getting really frustrated, but 8 o'clock is still a good bedtime. Maybe it's not 7 o'clock or it's not your goal, but it's very close to, right? So it's dissatisfaction and disappointment. This also shows up when, for example, I mentioned it, like I'm working on this with parties. If I have a birthday party, for example, for my children, I remember there was one specific one where I had so much stress on myself. I started stressing and feeling overwhelmed because the party has to be a certain way. It has to look a certain way. People have to have such a good time. Sure. Like I want everyone that I invite to come. Like with my wedding, I was the same way. Like everything has to be perfect. And when one little tiny thing goes wrong, which again, it will, because there's never anything, no one's perfect. No team is perfect of vendors. No, people are going to get sick. People are not going to show up. People are going to be late. There's so many ways you can be dissatisfied. And if you are so dissatisfied that maybe you didn't even enjoy like this one party, this one birthday party, I remember I did not enjoy it. It was one of my kids' birthday parties. And I remember after the fact, I was like, I didn't even enjoy it. It went by so fast and I didn't even enjoy it because I was so stressed out with all the details that I didn't even enjoy the thing. Right. So that is not me trying to that's not being a high achiever. That's being a perfectionist. Right. So that it's dissatisfaction and disappointment when you are not enjoying the thing that you're getting, the thing you're working towards because you are so overwhelmed with working at it. Then now it's getting into the area of perfectionism. Right. And you could, and self-sabotaging, right? So this is not a good place to be, right? Another way that it could show up is overworking in your everyday life. If you are overworking constantly or season after season, everything's okay if you're taking a course right now, or if you are getting your master's and it's 1 year of grinding, or you're in a specific program, or maybe you're in college and working 2 jobs. There's seasons where we grind 100% and you're going to overwork. You're going to have the time, you're going to do that. But now a perfectionist, they work excessively, right? Often to the detriment of their well-being in an attempt to meet their high standards. This is so true. And I see it with so many people where you will become basically a workaholic. You are working, working, working around the clock on your weekends, at night times, in the mornings, at all hours, because you just want the product to be so good. You want to show up in your best version, but it is excessive. It's excessive because it starts affecting your personal relationships, it starts affecting your family relationships, it starts affecting your friends' relationships. Maybe you don't go to birthday parties or you don't show up for your friends anymore and you stop getting invited. And it's detrimental to you, right? Maybe you stop going to the gym, you're not working out anymore. Maybe you're not eating healthy, you're not making time to cook your meals and you're ordering out constantly. This is not healthy stuff, right? When it starts becoming overworking, starts affecting your life. You're not getting good sleep, you're going to sleep very late, not getting in any sleep, waking up super early, or just your hours are off. This is an unhealthy thing, and this is not a good thing. This means you are a perfectionist, right? And again, this is a form of self-sabotage. We'll get into it in a minute, right? So another way that it shows up in your everyday life is you focus on the outcomes. You are so obsessed with the outcome instead of the process, right? So the definition is they often prioritize the final outcome above the process, right? Leading to a lack of enjoyment and focus on the achieving results rather than the journey in itself. This is so true. If you are so obsessed with, for example, something I was stressing about, I'm just going to be honest with you, is I have a lot of friends that have a podcast, or I've seen a lot of peers that have podcasts, and I had to take a break for a year. As you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, this podcast has been around for 4 years and it was doing really, really well. And about a year and a half ago, I took a year and a half ago now, I took a pause, and it was over a year long pause on this podcast because I had my second child, I had my daughter, and I just really felt like God was telling me, you need to pause, you need to slow down. And it was great for my health. I didn't know what was coming a few weeks later. Like I mentioned, if you haven't heard my story, go back a few episodes and you'll hear my my new story of failure and what I learned in that year process of being away from the podcast. But I share about that, like my health. I needed to focus on my health in that season. There were a lot of things that I needed in that season, a lot of healing, a lot of stuff that had to happen in that season, and it was really healthy for me. But of course, some people have continued because they're in a different season of life. Maybe their babies are not so little. They're in a different season of life, so they are further along now than they were when I paused. Right, we were all pretty much the same place, and so sometimes it's frustrating when I see their videos go viral on Instagram or just more following and different things and more progress in their areas. And I start focusing on like, oh my God, this video has to go viral. This clip has to go viral so the following can go up so that I can, kind of catch up or kind of redeem the time that I lost. Right. And so was getting so focused on the outcome and doing a good video or doing a good episode or just, like what is the outcome that I wanted, like a clip to go viral. Right. And I'm just being honest with you. That's what I wanted. And then I was getting so like into that I wasn't taking a step back and being like, no, let me work on something that I think is good and meaningful. And if it goes, it goes. I'm just going to work on the process. And then whatever happens, happens, right? And that is more healthy approach. You put in your best into the process and you're not focused on the end result. So if you are too focused on the end result and you're not enjoying the progress, the process, maybe it's with your kids, you just want them to be like perfect and you're not enjoying like helping them develop as people, that could be you're so focused on the outcome and not the progress or the process, right? So that is you're overly focused on the outcomes, right? Another way it shows up in everyday life is all or nothing thinking. This is also an extreme that I've been slipping back into. It's actually the premise of this podcast, one of the main things and part of the story, but perfectionists tend to view situations in extremes, either a complete success or utter failures, and have little room for partial success or learning from mistakes, right? The whole premise of this podcast and why it's called But For She Failed is that literally failure is part of the process, right? Every successful person fails and it's part of the process. Like if you listen to this on the audio version of this podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, you'll listen to the whole intro. I say that every successful person fails and it's part of the journey towards success and purpose, which is a game changer that I learned in my life many years ago. Go to episode number 1 on the audio podcast to hear that whole story and the details of that, what led to this podcast. But essentially it's so true, right? It's all or nothing thinking. It's like you think you're either a failure or a success. And something that I heard that helped me so much, it's either in life you win or you learn, right? I heard a motivational speaker speak on this years ago at a friend's event. And for me, it was so profound because I used to always think win or lose. Like everything was win or lose. Like, did I get the job? I won. If I didn't get the job, I lost. If I didn't win the award, then I lost, And so it's like win or failure, right? And then when I learned this in life, it's not either you win or you lose. It's either you win or you either win or you learn. When I heard that, it was like something went off for me. It's like so profound. It's like really anything in life, and any season of life, you're either winning in that season or you're learning in that season. And if you're learning, you're about to win in the next season or the following season, you're gonna win. So you're always winning. Essentially, when you start thinking that way, things don't seem as extreme. Things start seeming like a little, you can chill a little bit more. Everything is part of the journey. You're growing, you're developing, right? So it's that all or nothing mentality is so toxic. It's so dangerous. It's self-sabotage. And it probably has stopped you in the past from different projects you wanted to start, different things you wanted to go towards, right? So that is the all or nothing thinking. Another one is unrealistic standards. This one is so true, right? So unrealistic standards is like the creme de la creme, like typical perfectionist thing, right? Where your perfectionists often hold impossible high expectations for themselves and for others, making it difficult to feel satisfied in anything less than perfect, which that there's nothing perfect. You are not perfect. No one is perfect in your life. No event is perfect. Like I mentioned, no product is perfect. No job is perfect. No spouse is perfect. No child is, no one is perfect. No one, besides God, no one is perfect. So these are unrealistic standards. And every single time, every situation, it's not going to be perfect, right? So you are setting yourself up for sadness, for anxiety, for stress, for defeat, because you are having these unrealistic expectations, right? So that is another way that you can think that things show up in everyday life as a perfectionist. So what I hadn't realized prior to this book that I'm reading, which it's called The Mountain Is You, and it's by, I believe, Brianna West. And it's The Mountain Is You, I forget but it's basically about like stopping self-sabotage and learning self-mastery, right? So I don't know the exact title. Don't quote me. I can actually add it in the notes below. And I can link the book if you're interested in and let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. But yes, The Mountain Is You. It's really fascinating because it's really talking about how the journey from stopping self-sabotage, where you don't even know you're doing self-sabotage, to getting to a place of self-mastery, right? What she writes in the book is perfectionism is a form of self sabotage stemming from fear of failure or vulnerability and ultimately hindering growth and self mastery, right? It happens when you are afraid of failing or being vulnerable or not being as good as what you want people to think you are, right? So you avoid the work required to get to where you want to go. So this is so profound to me. It's like you are so obsessed with the perfectionism that you are not starting the podcast that you want to start, or you are not writing the book, or you are not going for that job, or you are not applying for that there's so many ways that this could show up in your life. You are not taking the functional health course that you want to. There's so many ways that it's showing up, right? And because you are so obsessed with perfection that you are not taking the first steps that you need to take, right? And how can perfectionism hold you back? It can hold you back in so many ways. Like I said, I just named a few, but not ever letting you start projects that will move the needle forward on your career or business. Like I said, you maybe want to do stuff that, yes, you're working on your business, but you're working on things that don't move the needle forward, things that are not going to get you to where you want to get to because you're so scared of really doing the thing, right? It can stop you from sending that email that might change your life because you don't think the conditions are perfect. You don't think you look perfect. You don't think you are everything on your social media is perfect. You don't think that you're in a perfect situation. So you don't send the email. And guess what? It could have changed your life, right? It can stop you from applying for a dream job or a dream school because you procrastinate so much that you don't ever get around to sending the application in on time. It can show up in a million little ways, holding you back from in all areas of life, from living your best life, which is so, so sad. And the crazy thing is, that you have no idea that you are doing it. That's so crazy to me, right? And to me myself too. I had no idea. And even like last week or this week, earlier this week, over the weekend, I didn't know that that's what I was struggling with, right? That's why I wasn't putting out the reel or the content on my social media accounts because I wanted to look curated, I wanted to look good, all the things, but you got to start somewhere, right? So what are some tips and tricks for stopping the self-sabotaging perfectionism? Here goes, right? You need to start to reframe the way you view things. This is what I'm going to do. I'm being honest with you. I've struggled with this so many times in the past, and I think I was doing really good. And like I said, I recently fell back into just being a perfectionist and wanting perfectionism out of me, out of this podcast, out of all the things. And it started becoming, it was like a week there where it was like, oh my God, I was so overwhelmed and so stressed out that it wasn't bringing me joy. And that's not healthy, right? So well, again, what am I going to do? And what do I recommend you do? I'm going to start reframing the way I view these things, right? I'm going to write these quotes down because these are helpful. They've been helpful to me in the past. And I also found a couple new ones that I'm going to add to the list. I'm going to write them down. I'm going to put them up in my room, so that I can view them constantly, right? So that I can focus on them and kind of, ruminate on good things, right? Think like, on good things, right? That can help me, right? So a few things to get you started are this thought, right? Remember that all that matters is that you do what you really want to do. From there, you learn from your mistakes, and over time, you get to a place that you really want to be. So remember that you just have to do what you really want to do, right? So whatever that thing is, that business, that career, even if it's like not even if it's a personal thing, like you just want to become a great cook, or you just want to be great at makeup, or you want to pick up a hobby, do whatever you love to do. Just start it, right? Just start. Over time, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn. And that's eventually you're going to get to where you really want to be. And a quote that goes along with this is a story, is basically a friend of mine. When I was about to start this podcast, he told me this, and this has never left me, right? I was really struggling at the time with, like, I had worked at Univision, I had worked at Telemundo, I had worked in national news, and I was about to start this podcast back in 2020. I was working on it, and I was like, wow, I need to be perfect out of the gate because I am a journalist. I'm not, a civilian. I guess this is what I thought in my head. I'm like, it needs to be perfect because I worked in national news, I worked in media, so it has to be perfect. Like there can be no room for error. That's what I was like dealing with internally. And I remember my friend said, you just have to do it. It's going to suck. So he said, do it sucky. It's going to be sucky the first time you do it. And when he said that, I was like, wow, it's so true. He was like, the first time you do your episode, it's going to suck, right? Your first episode's not going to be great. Just own it now. Just know you're going to put out something. It's not going to be great. But guess what? Episode number 50 is going to be better. Episode 100 is going to be way better than episode number one. Episode 250 is going to be amazing in comparison to number one. And you're going to grow. And the more times you put in reps, the more you're going to get there, right? So when he said that, I was like, wow, that's always stuck with me because he basically like freed me, because in that moment when he said that, he's like, episode number one's it's gonna be sucky and it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay because episode 100 is gonna be way better. And for me, that was so freeing because I needed that word in that moment, because I needed to free myself from the perfectionism. I needed to be like, you're right. I'm just going to put out something because it's going to get better, right? So once you allow yourself to be okay with the first version of whatever you put out, it's going to suck, and you're okay with that, it's going to be so freeing. I felt like I got out of a jail. Like I was in an internal jail in my mind and like internally. And when he shared that with me, I just felt free, right? So that's something that I'm going to put up on the wall. Do it sucky. It's going to be sucky the first time you do it. And that's okay. Right. Another one, that was another phrase that I heard in that same season of starting this podcast that was very helpful to me, is done is better than perfect. This was from a mentor, and this is so good, right? Done is better than perfect. And what she meant, and when she shared that, was essentially like, just work on what we're going through the different levels of starting a podcast and all that. And it's like, just start the podcast, like just pick a name and go with it and go from there. Just do this, and done is better than perfect, right? Because the truth is, you can spend months thinking of a title for your podcast. You can spend months and months and months and months and months and get stuck there and never actually put out the podcast. Or you could do something, get it done, and that's it. It's better because it's done. Done is better than perfect, right? Because the truth is, we're never going to get to a perfect place. And it's very hard to get to a place where you're going to go over it a million times and you're going to go back, and it's just going to be a waste of time. And the truth is, nothing, it doesn't move the needle forward. If you had an amazing, perfect thought, that doesn't move the needle forward, right? Done is better than perfect, right? So whatever you're working on in this moment, whatever step you're on of whatever project, whatever class, everything, get it done, because done is better than perfect. So even if you feel like this is like 80% perfect, it's okay. 80% is great. It's done. If you did everything, you went through the whole sheet, it's done. It's done. 80% is great. If you feel 80% good about it, great. That's it. It's done. Now move on to the next step, right? So done is better than perfect. If you don't get started, this is another quote. If you don't get started, you'll never arrive, right? This was from the book, and I thought this was so powerful. If you don't get started, you'll never arrive. So get started today. There's a quote that says, a saying that goes like, the best time to start something was 10 years ago. The next best time to start something is today. So get started, because if you don't start today, you're never going to arrive. You're never going to get to that place. So stop caring what other people think. Stop caring about all the other things. Just start, because if you don't start, you're never going to arrive, right? Another quote, another way to reframe things is, the truth is, we don't actually accomplish great feats when we're anxious. This is also from the book. We won't accomplish anything that's impressive or world changing when we're anxious, right? Instead, we accomplish those things when we simply show up and allow ourselves to create something that is meaningful to us. In all transparency, this specific quote is what helped me today to record this episode, because I was really stuck in a cycle of perfectionism over the weekend. And even yesterday, I recorded a version of this yesterday, and I was just trying to be perfect. I wrote out the script. I was just going over everything. I was like, am I wearing the right shirt? Like, I was just really like spiraling in perfectionism yesterday afternoon, when I recorded it. And when I read this, I was like, wow, I needed that. I needed that reminder that the truth is, we don't actually accomplish great feats when we're anxious, right? So if we are anxious, you're not going to accomplish anything great. But if you allow yourself, give yourself room and space and to breathe and think through these things, that done is better than perfect. Just get it done. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you start, and this to me was great, right? We accomplish great things when we simply show up as ourselves and create something that is meaningful for us. So for me, this is meaningful, right? And whatever that thing that you love is, it's got to be meaningful, right? Just show up and create meaningful things. Everything else will follow. And for me, that was so freeing. I don't care if this clip goes viral or not. What I care about is creating something meaningful and helpful, right? So that is, for me, that's like creme de la creme right now in this specific moment, in this specific week. Just yesterday, it helped me a ton. So I'm going to put this up in with my quotes that I'm going to put up. And some ideas are, don't worry about making the Grammy Award winning hits. Just worry about making music. This is also in the book, and I thought it was so relevant, right? Don't worry about making Grammy Award winning hits. Just make music, right? How do you apply what I just said of, the truth is, we don't accomplish anything when we're anxious? Instead, just show up and create something meaningful to us. Examples of this are that, right? Don't worry about making the Grammy Award winning hit. Just worry about making the music. Don't worry about making content that goes viral. Like I said, just worry about showing up and recording. Don't worry about writing the New York Times best-selling book. Just worry about writing, right? So spend some time this week thinking about those phrases that I just shared with you. Think about all the things that we just talked about, right? Write it down, put them up in your room, like I said, and look at them consistently to get them in your heart, because I think this will be so, so helpful. A few other tips that I came across and I'm going to share with you really quick are some things that could also help in addition to this are creating environments where you feel accepted. If you are in a situation, maybe in your job or in a role or in a place where you truly, and it's not, maybe you have a difficult boss, that's going to happen anywhere, right? It's not, I'm not talking about something small like that, but if you truly are in a situation where you don't feel accepted, you feel very ostracized, then get out of that situation, get into an environment where you feel accepted, because that's definitely going to help you with this perfectionism tendencies that you have, right? Another way is to start engaging in positive self talk instead of the negative stuff. Start seeing the things that you like about yourself and focusing on that, right? Start saying, like, giving it yourself affirmations. You can never say too many affirmations in my book. I don't think anyone will ever tell you that you can affirm yourself too much. So if you deal with negative self talk, if you have tendencies to do that sometime, then start saying positive things to yourself. Start affirming yourself and saying positive things over your life. Anything that's negative, turn it into a positive. Or start, if you feel like you can't do that, then just start saying whatever you are grateful for. Start thanking God for things you're grateful for, and start also thanking God for the things you're grateful for about yourself, right? Another thing that can help you with perfectionism tendencies is not comparing yourself to others. So if you struggle with this, maybe now is the time to unfollow some Instagram accounts, unfollow some accounts that just aren't helpful to you, where you feel like you're competing with them, or you feel like you're always comparing yourselves to their lives, whatever, peers. This could be Instagram, this could be anywhere, right? Maybe you're too much into the celebrity world, and maybe you need to pause on consuming that content for a little bit, right? So that is, stop comparing yourself to others. Another way to help yourself is to practice mindfulness, to help you learn how to focus on the present without worrying too much about the past or the future. This is something that I've seen people that are so focused on the past, and they're thinking about things that happened 20 years ago, maybe even more, right? They're just focused on these things that happened a long time ago, and because they're so focused thinking about the past, it's draining all their energy from them, and they're not able to focus on what's here and today. And so they're not accomplishing anything in the season. They're not accomplishing it. Maybe they haven't accomplished anything for years because they're so focused on the past. And I'm not saying don't do the healing that you need to do, go to therapy, do all the things that you need to do and deal with the things from the past. Yes, I'm all for that. I am a big advocate for that. But what I'm saying is, don't continue to beat yourself up. Don't continue to ruminate on things in the past too much, because it's going to drain your energy. So don't focus on things in the past, but in the same breath, don't focus too much on the future. Don't be so obsessed with, like, how successful you're going to be in 20 years, how successful you're going to be in 10 years, or what your life is going to look like in 5 years, or having the kids, how life's going to look like when you have kids, or getting married, or whatever that thing is in the future that you really, really want. Don't focus too much on that. Focus on the here and now, the present, right? It's really going to help you with not being a perfectionist. Don't worry about the outcomes. Just focus on what's in the season now. So, but there you have it. Those are different ways to stop self-sabotage. Self-sabotage. Can't even say the word. There you have it. Those are different ways to stop self-sabotaging yourself with perfectionism. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Remember to hit subscribe if you find this content helpful. It really helps us get the word out to more people. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We're really trying to get our numbers up there. And if you want more of this content, also feel free to DM me. I'm always one Instagram message away. But first she failed. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you next time.